In this part 2, let's get into building a simple map, which is called a symbol map in Tableau, but with a complex example. Because having seen all these terminologies, jargons, right, rather than boring you to death with simple tasks, so I wanted to present you something close to a real life scenario that I encountered, variation of that, and then allow you to tackle that using whatever you know, and then also kind of filling in the gaps with concepts that I have not covered. So here is the problem statement. So first we have to display sales and the profit at the state level. This is what the customer wants. Let's use our superstore sample data. The customer wants to group the states into 5 groups based on their profit, so that he could see, in each of these groups, how many states are there, is there similarity between them and stuff. And then he also wants to display some custom arrows on the map based on which group each state belongs to. Yeah, so customer has supplied some set of arrows. In this case, I'll show you some example that I've picked up, and then we will see. Yeah. So whenever you hear a problem statement like this, how do you get to translate this into Tableau? So as I've been saying, so each of the steps you need to visualize what the output is going to be in Tableau. So once that is clear in your mind, what it is going to look like, then you need to visualize the steps or write down the steps. Typically the way I do it on paper, so I take a sheet of paper, I write down, typically I might draw a dashboard or I might draw reports, and then look at what steps are there. Yeah, so even for simple problems, a minute spent in on paper reflecting and drawing something out will save you a lot of time. And if you're building things which are complex, to me this is a very very important step in the process. I have seen a lot of people, both experienced as well as newbies, just jumping into just create a new report and start dragging and dropping, and then Tableau throws something. When they think that Tableau matches, or the output matches what they wanted to see, they see the problem as solved. Many a times it leads to bugs that are hard to discover. So I'm a person who wants to use a process, so this is what I would recommend. So in order to show you the paper process, I cannot show you a paper process. I'll show it in Excel, a quick outline of what I would do, and then we will do. So here is the output that I want you to generate, or we will generate in this video. Yeah. So if you look at the legend, or it is telling you the red arrow, the down red arrow is pointing to the lowest profit bin, which is like 40,000 and below. And then the next one is the orange one is giving us 20,000 to 40,000, all the way up to the final green one, which is giving us basically 60,000 and above. Yeah. So that's what we want. So let's go to Excel and get started. Here I've copied those 3 tasks here. So let's do a few quick minutes of thinking before we jump into Tableau. Display sales and profit at the state level. So do we know how to do this? This is very simple. Just a double click logic will help us to do this, right? So default behavior. So I can just type done. Now, how do we group states into 5 groups based on their profit? So this is where you need to relate back to what we covered in histogram. So we are going to use the concept from histogram, but not necessarily to produce the histogram, but to use it on the map. Yeah, so how do we do this? So we need to go to profit and then create 5 bins. Yes, okay, so let's use the concept of basically profit bins. And do we know how to create a specified number of bins, which we have not covered? So let's see, based on what we know, how can we get to this? Yeah. And then display custom arrows on the map based on profit group. So do we know how to customize things? We don't know. So in this lesson, I'm going to introduce that. This is fairly simple process to do. So basically change the shapes. Yeah. There is a quick plan at this, and then we will jump into Tableau. So I'm going to start with double clicking on state, and then sales, and then profit. So that gave us what we wanted. So now we need to create the groups, but rather than doing that, let's first customize the icons, because that's an easier task. So how do we customize the icons? So if you remember, the name of this is called a symbol map, right? So, but what does a symbol mean? So let me show you the dictionary definition. So here is the definition I want you to look at. A shape or sign used to represent something, such as an organization, Red Cross. We are all very familiar with International Red Cross, right? So it is giving us a clue. It's either a shape or a sign or image that we want to use, right? So why is Tableau calling this map as the symbol map, right? So if you go to show me, this is the name you will see. This is called symbol map. This is called fill map. It used to be called fill map. Now it is called just maps. Yeah. So now this is symbol map. So the name tells you, so Tableau uses a symbol. By default, when we look at this, it is using a circle. So filled circle. So that is the symbol. And hence we should be able to change the symbol, right? So, but where do we go to change anything in Tableau with respect to how the marks are appearing? The marks card, right? So typically, if you remember, when we change it to a line, for example, if I change it to a line, you will see a path thing, right? So, but then how do I see? I don't see an extra place to change the shape, right? So I see color, size, detail, the regular stuff. I don't see anything here. So to me, this is an inconsistency in Tableau. So ideally, they should have put a shape here. So you will get that by changing the mark type to shape manually. So now you have this shape thing. So if you like any other thing, the color or size, right? So you can either drag dimensions or measures, or you can use it like a traditional purpose. As I said, traditional purpose or special purpose. In special purpose, we drag a dimension or a measure. In a traditional purpose, we just use it to change. For example, how do I change it to red cross, right? So for example, this is cross that I've selected, but since profit is on color, so this is already covering. So let me just put it on tooltip only, and then now I can go to the conventional purpose of color and then change it to red, and then even make it a little bit bigger. Yeah. So here are some options I wanted to introduce to you with respect to color, especially in map. So this halo is kind of going to put a glow around it. It could be helpful when you have a lot of data points. So to kind of make it easy for your eyes to focus. Yeah. So this is a setting. So both border and halo. So if I change this to some other shape, for example, this one. So it is still border is not there. But if I go back to the default one, then the border would be enabled. So I can then change the border to something else. So if I turn off halo, so you will see the border. So by default, the border is not there. So if I put a border, so you would see. So either the border or the halo option can be used to make it easy for our eyes to focus. This is obviously useful in map, and you can also play with this opacity. It shows you how much of the text or things underneath it is visible. Yeah. So these are the options that are handy when it comes to map, that we typically don't touch in other cases. Uh, so now coming back, so if I go to shape, so I was able to change it to red cross, but then I want this to be based on the profit. So what do I do? So I drag and drop this on profit, and then look at what's happened. So I see a lot of different values for profit. So how is this arrived at? To any, as I said, if you want to understand anything complex with respect to a chart in Tableau, the first step is to convert this into either a cross tab or go to your analysis view data and see what you are seeing. So in this case, let me do this into a cross tab, and you could see there are basically 49 marks, right? So it has taken these 49 states, and each one of them it has given a shape on its own. So let's click here, and then now you get a palette which is similar to our color palette. Since we dropped a number, right, logically there should be what is called, if in color we have this diverging palette which gives us an infinite variety of colors, but then when it comes to shape, all you have is discrete palette, right? So no matter where you go, you have either 10 shapes or 20 shapes or whatever, some numbers, right? So it's a fixed number. So Tableau starts assigning for your first value from the first item. So we have 10 values here. So up to 10 values it's going, and then the 11th value it starts picking up again at the bottom, right? This is, so if you want this into basically, so if we select for example something like arrows which has a lot more values, and I assign palette. So the first thing is it is giving me a warning. It says shape assignment has more items than the shape palette. That means basically, so we have a lot more data points and less unique shapes. So you want to assign, meaning you want to repeat some of these assignments. For now, just for the purpose of demonstration, we say yes, and then we will see after going to green and all of these fully filled arrows, so you start them coming back again. So this is not typically correct, but I'm just showing you how this works. Yeah. So now let's keep it at that. Let's say, so we see all these confusing things that are going on. Yeah. Because we put profit on the shape itself. But do we really want to put profit on the shape? No, we want to put the bins on the shape, right? So I'm going to click on profit, create a bin. So the question now is, what's the size of the bin? So do we have any clue? If we accept, let's start off by accepting what Tableau is suggesting. So blindly, and then now how many bins have come in? So we want to test this. So let's go to a new sheet. Let's clear this and then bring that bin. So I double click on the bin. So it has now brought 29 marks, as you can see at the bottom, meaning there are 29 bins created. We don't want 29 bins, we want only 5 bins. So how do we do that? So let's go back to the bin. So instead of this, so now how do we get basically 5 bins? The clue is here itself. So Tableau is giving you min, max and the range itself. So in this thing called diff, right? The difference between max and the min, which is called the range. So we have $15,000. So we want 5 bins. So 15,000 divided by 5, that's about 3,000, should give us that number. So let's put 3,000 and see how many bins are coming. So we got very close. We got 6 bins though, right? So how do we do this? So the best way to do in a situation like this is, rather than editing each time, let's use a parameter that allows us to move around and fix. So I'm going to create a new parameter for profit bin, and then minimum is, let's say 2000, and then maximum is, let's say, I don't know, maybe 5000, and then step size is 500. Let's try and then current value, let's yeah, that's it. Say okay and say okay. I want to move it to a slider. So now just focus on the status bar. So for 2500 it's 7 marks, for 3000 it's 6 marks, for 3500 it's 5 marks, for 4000 it's still 5 marks, for 4500 it's 4 marks. So let's keep it at 4000 because that's easier than this 3500. Yeah, so 4000 is a good bin size for us to use. So let's use that. So now the bin is ready. So where do we need to drop the bin? We need to drop the bin in the shape. So let's drop that, and then now we got 5 of these arrows. Yeah, so now let's go here. So now the problem is, so Tableau has taken these first 5 items and assigned, right? So if you want to, for example, assign these 5 colors only, right, rather than them, you have to do it manually. For example, for this item I can do, for this item I can do. But the problem with this is, when you refresh and then this value changes, again Tableau will reset it. So we really want it to work like the color, where it is like a continuous color, where it is automatically able to pick up, right? So to do that, so we need to restrict the number of things that are appearing here, so that it has only 5, right? So we'll take up all of these things out and then keep only these 5, so that we always get those things assigned in the order that we want, rather than manually assigning it. Yeah, so that's what we want to do. So instead of all these 20 plus items, we want to create our own custom palette that shows us only 5 arrows. So let's see how to do that. So all your shape files and a lot of different configuration is stored in this place called Tableau repository. Yeah, so if you click on this icon, sorry, menu, repository location, it's gonna take you there. Since I'm on a Mac, you will see slightly some different, but it is exactly the same. It is typically under your documents, my documents folder in Windows, and then something called my Tableau repository. Here I'm going to click on this. So here is the shapes folder. As you can see, that whatever we saw there, arrows, bars, a lot of them are appearing. So let's go into this arrows thing and then display the thing. So you can see it is exactly the same. So what I want to do is create these 3 plus 2, 5 items and then put it in our own custom folder, which is what I've already done, which is here, test custom images. These 5 items are there. So now my job is to bring this as the palette, and then we will see all these assignments done easily directly in Tableau. So I come back. So I'm in shapes. I'm gonna click on reload shapes, and then I would see the test custom images what I created. And then now I need to click on assign palette, and automatically from the first to the last it is assigned. Yeah, so this is superior. Yeah, so we got it. So now, so have we gotten what we wanted? So first sign of trouble is, so let's increase the size a little bit and also maybe use a little bit of halo, so we could see what's going on. So the problem is now I see two arrows, but I wanted to display only one. I mean, state is one, so I have a pill on the state level, right? So how it is displaying two things really, right? So again, so let's use the cross tab because it's easier to figure out what's going on. And then let's focus on, for example, California. So California is in two bins, 0 bin and then minus 4000 bin. Why is that? So let's click on view data to understand what's going on. Here I know what's going on, but I am just following the footsteps of a person who does not know, so that we can kind of logically see what are the steps you could take to figure out when something goes wrong. Yeah, so that's the process I'm trying to kind of simulate for you. So I go here, so I see 105 items. So if I see all the fields, I see a lot of these 2016 to all the way up to 2017 and all. So I see all of this. So anything which has a negative profit, it is assigned here in this minus 4000 because it is 0 to minus 4000. And then here, if I go here, I am able to now see anything which has a positive profit is assigned here. So this is not what I want. I want one mark for the California, right? And then that number should go into a bin rather than each line item getting into a bin. So how do we accomplish this? So let's go back here. So how do we accomplish this? So here, so I wanted to cover a little bit of fundamentals of how things work. So here we have these profits, right? So if I just click on the state itself, so let's do the state itself. So we are able to see this in the minus 4000, there are all of these states, and then all of this. And then if I look at these records itself, so now this is giving us a clue basically what is really happening, right? So but what we want is, so for each state to appear only once. So if I, for example, move this around, I do not want this to be in two different states. How do I do that? The first thing is I want this at a state level. So let's take, for example, the profit. So I want the profit which is here, right? So one number. So this is, rather than these two split, for example, in Arizona, these two as two different numbers, I want them to be combined as one number. How do I do that? And then that has to go into the bin. So let's remove the bin itself. We don't even want the number of records. So let's keep it at this level. So how do we do this? So we really want to create a bin at this level. So let's right click, see whether there is any option. Does not seem to be any option, right? So let's create a explicit calculated field for sum of profit and see whether that solves the problem. So I'm going to create a calculated field. So I say okay, and then go to this, right click, create. I don't see a pin. So how do I make it work? So what you need to understand is, so in Tableau, whenever we are creating a calculated field, we are defining only what happens to the number, right? So here profit is a number, we are specifying the aggregation. If the aggregation is not specified, then automatically Tableau will apply this. We have no clue about what is the dimension that will determine this profit, meaning what are the buckets, right? So if I drag and drop this field into something that has a country, it's going to give me country level profit. If I drag and drop this into a report which has a state level of detail, it is going to give me a state, right? So at the calculated field level, I cannot really control what will be in the view. So is there a way out? Yes, I think starting from Tableau 9, if I remember correctly. So the concept of LODs, which is called level of detail calculation, have been introduced. This is an advanced topic, but I mean, in advanced topics, not everything is complex. So this is a very simple thing. So what I need to do is I want this profit to occur at a state level. So logically, so for example, so if I take this off, I want to somehow say I want profit at this level. So how do we do this? So if I write just like this, calculation contains errors, meaning syntax is not accepted. So what you need to do is use this concept called fixed. So this will give you this. So it's called fixed is the type of expression. So as you can see, it allows us to specify number of dimensions. At the end of it, it expects us colon. So which I am going to put here and then end it with a bracket. So what this is telling you, fixed is telling you, I want to specify a dimension. So I want this profit to be determined not based on where it is thrown into the view, but here in the definition itself, I want to say this. So you can specify any number of dimensions since we are at the state level. So we want only that. So let's call it total profit at state. Yeah. So let's apply. let's see whether that works. So if you see, this both numbers are exactly the same. Yeah, so this is not really giving us what we want. So to really understand this, so what you need to do is, for example, if you go to the city level, then you could see in Alabama you have number of cities. Now the profit is broken by city. So the normal pill, the sum of profit is influenced by what is here in the view. Whereas our total profit, it literally ignores that, and then it is still giving us the state level profit, which is the same number for all of it. In another state, it's a different number, right? So that's how it works. LOD is a topic on its own, and it is an advanced topic which I will cover in detail. But for this level, you don't need to really know anything advanced. What I've told you is very, very simple stuff you should be able to do. So now let's right click on this and then see whether we get a bin. Fortunately, we get a bin. I'm going to leave out the technical details of how and when you get a right click and then bin. But for now, just follow this. Yeah, so you get a bin on an LOD thing. So let's create a bin on this. Again, we have the same dilemma. How do we know the size of the, meaning 5 bins? So now this time the difference is 1 or 2000. Let's go the parameter route. Yeah, so profit, so what is that we want to start off with? So it's going into 100,000, so maybe we'll start off at 10,000s, and then basically step by 10,000 and then maybe end at 100,000. So just let's say okay, and then now what we want to do is just do a slider. So now let me bring it back at the state level itself, right? So I want to bring the bin also here so that I'm able to see. So now you can see, so yeah, this is not the view. We want to test how many bins are there. So let's put total profit at state and then the parameter. So now this is resulted in 8 bins. As you can see in the status bar, we want less than that. So the next bin size gives us 5 bins. So this is the right size for us. So now having configured that, so let's come back to this report. So now you can see each one of the states falls into one of the bins. If you take, for example, this one, this is minus 3000 at the state level. So it goes into that minus 0 to minus 20,000. This is plus, so this is 0 to plus 20,000. This is 76, so it goes into 60 to 80,000. So now these bins are set. Now all we need to do is drop that rather than this one or the shape. So now we got basically 5 different shapes because maybe it got reset. So we need to go back and pick the custom thing, assign, and then apply, and then now we got what we wanted. Yeah. So now the hellos are a little bit distracting. Maybe we can turn that off. Yeah. So that's all. If you want, you can increase the transparency fully, make the size a little bit bigger. So now if you see, if I hover over this, now this is telling me the sales is 457,000 and then the profit only showing the bin. So let's bring the profit also on the tooltip. So and now it shows sales and profit as well as the bin there. So if you just focus on this view, so if I just get into a full screen, what does it tell me? So as I can quickly see, so the biggest sales in terms of the biggest shape of the arrows, right? So biggest size of the arrows, so they are both profitable. They are in the highest bin, right? And then the ones which are in red, the lowest bin. So if I select this and then enable highlighting, so I can see there's only one state in that lowest level, and then there are a few states in that next level, right? And then there are a few things at the medium profitability, and then 2 things at the high profitability, and then 2 things at the highest profitability. So it confirms the patterns that I want to see, and then it allows me to focus on things. If you ask me, is this the best visualization to answer this question? I may not say yes. Yeah, but given that we are trying to demonstrate custom shapes and then how to customize palettes and a lot of different things on the map, this is a representative example that I've picked for you. So hope you have understood everything that I've talked about. So having covered a complex example, so in the next video, let's get back to a little bit more relaxing topics, which is just moving around in maps, zooming in and out, customizing the simple stuff which is available in maps.